Hi, everybody. Welcome to First Center, First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. I want to give a special welcome to all of you in our virtual community. Today, as we gather at the center in our virtual space, we're on a journey to the realms of spiritual wisdom. So as we come together, let's open our hearts and minds to explore the timeless teachings that govern our existence. Our lesson this afternoon is entitled, I Create My Life, which is a discussion centered around the law of cause and effect. When we ever get into this subject, this exploration, we seek to understand how our thoughts, our words, and actions are the threads that we weave and create our reality. We come together to discuss the interconnectedness of everything and to awaken to the power that we have, the power that lies within. Through the practice of this teaching and our lessons, and the collective wisdom that we share and we gain every week, we develop a better understanding of the path to conscious manifestation, to creating the life that you want. So let's begin this afternoon by being open in our heart and mind and with a desire to live in harmony with the laws of existence. So again, I see some of you are still signing in. Welcome to the center. If you're on YouTube or you're finding us on any of the social media platforms, welcome. We're getting all your comments. We appreciate them. And you can always call the center if you need to speak to one of us, but we are getting your comments and we're getting back to you as soon as we can. So today, regarding the law in our talk, I Create My Life, first thing to say is we're evolving, all of us. Every one of us is, as Dr. Bill used to say to me, evoluting along. We're evolving. We are in a continual state of evolution. Those of you really immersed in our teaching understand this. Some of you who are very new may not understand this. So there's a lot of people who come to religious science, who come to New Thought, who intellectually grasp what we teach. But the challenge is there's not a lot of people who practice it consistently. This is something I've heard ministers say over and over again. You know, there's that intellectual knowing of how it works, and then there is, the people who actually practice it and practice it consistently. So we're going to talk about the law and the practice of it tonight. I can't tell you how many people over the years have told me who've taken Science of Mind classes and the Louise Hay classes, that they read Louise Hay's book years ago. They read You Can Heal Your Life. Of course, 65 million copies were sold and hundreds of millions of people read it. And that's wonderful that so many people have listened to Louise, read Louise. It's wonderful that a number of you have read Emerson, and at some point in your life, I know there's people of you who have maybe taken some Science of Mind classes, or it's wonderful that you might have read Deepak Chopra, Don Miguel Ruiz, Wayne Dyer, any of them really. Then there's a long list that I draw from myself. I could share a long reading list with you, and if you've read any of these books or you're familiar with these writers, any and all of them will bring you to a place where you get a glimmer of knowing that this divine energy is all that there is. And I'll say that again, because that's really the essence of metaphysics. It's the essence of New Thought. That there is this something that's in you, that's operating through you, that's in everything, everywhere, and all at the same time. In other words, there is this God and there's nothing else. So we come to these lessons always to learn about principle, to learn how this energy is working and how it works. God and nothing else, right? You might remember the poem by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. In the line, one of the opening lines, she starts out, God and I in space alone, and there's nothing else in view. And we're all part of that. We're all part of this unified energy. Deepak Chopra calls it the unitary field. So we live, we move, we have our being in this energy. Louise Hay, perhaps more than any of the authors, influenced the largest number of people in the New Thought movement. I mean, she's touched, we estimate, hundreds of millions of people No one else has done anything like what she's done. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And she was studying right here at our center in New York. Her inspiration, of course, was Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind. And Ernest was saying of this teaching, he says there's way too much theory when it comes to science of mind. There's too much talk, and there's not enough practice. So with that in mind regarding the law, I can say this. Each of us can go to a deeper place. I can take lessons to a deeper place. We can practice it from a deeper place. You know, sometimes you hear people doing affirmations kind of superficially, and there's nothing wrong with it. But you can take this teaching to a much deeper place. You can come from connection. You can take this teaching very seriously, and you can unify with God life and commune with it, and your whole world will change before your eyes. But we start wherever we are, of course, and we know that we can always demonstrate more the more we practice. The teaching is simple enough. I'm going to talk to you just briefly about the first 4 chapters of the book because they can tell you a great deal. The first chapter starts out being called The Thing Itself. When I first heard that, I was in shock. One time I was a good Catholic boy, and I'd bless myself if I heard anyone talking about the creative being as the thing itself. But in the textbook, Ernest starts out the first chapter describing it as the thing itself. And this chapter introduces the idea that there is this universal something. It's a creative intelligence that is the source of all existence. That's that unitary field that Chopra talks about. And Holmes is suggesting it's accessible to everybody, every individual through their own minds, through their own consciousness. So this source in you, as you operating through you, it's here and it's available. Deep at the center of your being, as Louise would say, it's there. And then in chapter 2, which is entitled The Way It Works, Holmes explains how this loving energy, this spirit operates through our thoughts and our beliefs, how both our expansive thinking and our negative thinking will shape our reality. And the universe is not judging us. It just reflects our expansive thinking or our negative thinking. So in the next chapter, the 3rd chapter, there's an attempt to describe what it does. So in that chapter, Holmes outlines the creative power of your consciousness, of your mind. And he's emphasizing here the importance of keeping the faith and staying the course. And that's the thing, there's all this theory, but, what he was talking about originally was there's not enough practice. So in the 3rd chapter, when he describes what it does, he's emphasizing the importance of keeping the faith, staying on course, staying with it, and maintaining positive expectancy, positive thinking. It also gets into the discussion about the importance of having big ideas and developing creative visualization for us to manifest the lives that we were meant to live. And if you read just a bit further into chapter 4, you're going to be given some instructions, some directions on how to use it, which is the name of that chapter. This chapter offers practical guidance of how we can harness the power of our creative, the power of the creative intelligence within us, within our very own minds. And this chapter is going to suggest that we practice aligning our consciousness with Source. It's going to suggest that we invite Source into our awareness. And it's going to suggest that we contemplate it. Contemplate it. Know that it's there. And then it's going to suggest that we move from the theory of thinking about it to practicing affirmative living, and learning to use affirmative affirmations and affirmative prayer. And as we work with this law, we conclude there are few certainties in life, and one of the certainties is that the universe presents us with perfect lessons always. The universe presents us with perfect experiences all the time, and that we're here to grow and we're here to evolve with each and every lesson we learn. If we're fortunate enough to have found this teaching and this center, I want you, first of all, to know that you're in the perfect place, perfect time, and all the time. The old-time students know that saying, and we stick with it. We stick with the teaching. We stay with the messaging of the center. The teaching gives us the ability to see life in a much bigger way. And with it, we know that we are part of the creative process and that we are supplied and supported. Further, we're empowered. Because of this, we're more ready to let go of people, places, and things, and ideas that hold us back. Most of us are committed to living and becoming more and more free. When we come into this teaching, we come into the realization that this creative love is creative intelligence itself, and it's responding to us, to our every thought. And we get struck with the utter simplicity and the beauty of it in the concept of cause and effect, which is today's lesson. We get really just struck with the idea that life is responding to us, that we, in fact, are cause to our own experience. We and all of us live in this energy, and it responds. That's amazing. It was Rev Dr. used to say, you can't lose with the stuff we use. Once you awaken to the fact that you're one with it, and you know that it responds to you, that's really quite amazing. How great is that? It's universal, and it's infinite, and it responds. I used to pray to a God that responded occasionally. Sometimes I thought, and sometimes not at all. So we come into this teaching and we understand that every thought we think, it responds to. So it's universal, it's infinite, and again, it responds. Now, we study the teaching, we study the lessons. Sometimes some of us listen to the lessons several times, and we're struck by the idea. We say, the idea is, oh my goodness, life is responding to me. And therein lies the great difficulty for many people, and also the thing that's most wonderful. Because once we understand the utter simplicity of the law, the purity of it, then sometimes we feel excited and sometimes we feel guilty. Guilty because we realize that we are entertaining thoughts and thinking things that are tripping us up often. So we come to the obvious conclusion that we have problem areas, we have shadow parts of our personalities, we have beliefs that are not great, and we have things that we're hanging on to that are being reflected in our life. And we don't really like it, some of it anyway. Nobody in this teaching wants to feel judged or feel bad, or no one, wants to be blaming anyone, and we don't want to feel at blame. Our teaching, many people who practice it for a while think of this teaching as a road to complete freedom. The universe itself, we teach you, is unfolding always in greater terms, and it's unfolding within each and every one of us, and it's moving forward. And we observe, as we get into this teaching, that we ourselves are expanding and growing in consciousness. And when we're faced with challenges every day, we grow through them. We try not to avoid them. We will try to walk through them, and we grow through them. The things that are happening in our life are not happening to us. They, in fact, are happening for us. They're there to bring us to a different and a better place of understanding. I'm very familiar with spiritual recovery programs of every kind, and the one thing I can share with you is they advocate, every one of them, for people to take a daily inventory. And that's something all of us can think about doing here too. It doesn't matter how often you do it or how you do it. Some of you like to journal, and that's fantastic. Some of you like to meditate and use affirmative prayer, or a combination of both, and that's fantastic also. Some of you use guided processes, and all are good. The thing to understand is spirit is moving through all of us, and it's always attempting to get our attention. So we want to do these inventories to see what comes up for you. What, if anything, is trying to get your attention? We want to be paying attention to your hunches, the things that happen to you, the thoughts you get out of the blue. You want to pay attention to your inner conversation or dialogue, because that inner conversation is creative. The law of life responds to you and that inner dialogue. You'll notice every Thursday I ask, what's that most important conversation you're having? Because sometimes because of that, people go back to something or they try something easier and pleasing to them. And what I mean by that is once you start to understand that this teaching is really all about you, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I got to change my thinking if I want to change my life. And that becomes a lot of work for some folks. And oftentimes that's where we lose people. They go back to something easier. I think it's just because they don't want to take responsibility or they don't feel they can. I know several people, one of my sisters is exactly like this, in that they're really attracted to the teaching, and they've studied it a bit, and they want it. They want a better life, or they want it up to a point. They like the idea of it, and that's often where it stops. Because one of the things that is central to our teaching and understanding the law, and it's really important you get this, is there is only one person that creates our reality. I create my life. I do. That's the name of our talk today. I create my life. Now, I must, somewhere along the line, be willing to accept responsibility for my life in its totality. And there's some people who are just unwilling to do that. And they will get caught up in stories and blame, and they'll project things upon other people. And they'll be moving away from the idea of God's source as being infinite and everywhere present. So they give up on the teaching. And I don't think there's any middle ground here, really. We may not understand totally the causation that brings forth certain events in our lives or the lessons that are come into our life. This is where our practice comes in and our faith and our trust comes in. There's a lot of people going around affirming a lot of things, affirming a lot of platitudes, and Dr. Holmes thought that that isn't enough. We do our work in consciousness, and once we have embodied an idea, we have to move our feet. Just because someone is affirming something, it doesn't mean that they yet embody it. There needs to be a shift in their affirmative prayer process to a place where when you say the words that you're affirming, and you sense your connection with Source. There was an old bumper sticker which was, shift happens. When you're doing your affirmations and you know that you know when you're speaking and you feel connected with your words, that's when they start to take power. That's when they demonstrate the improvements that you desire. I suggest for all of us that we consider taking the teaching to a deeper place where we can feel what we're affirming and connect with our own words, at least connect more, and then take some steps in a certain direction. Move our feet a bit. And I'm hoping you will not be one of those people who give up easily. In a relatively short time, if you do this work, you'll develop some self-mastery. There will be a quickening. There will be self-mastery in your understanding of how it works, how it responds, and so you can create your own reality. You can center yourselves, you can connect and practice. This teaching is wonderful. If you slow down and you take a pause, you can bring yourself to a place where you have a very deep understanding of life, where you have an understanding of something profoundly beautiful, and you're going to know it's in operation. There's a presence, a power, and a love, and it's in you, responding to you, and it's always wooing you and inspiring you. And then you can live in close communion with it. The question here for everybody is, are you practicing this? Are you practicing the presence? And are you coming from connection? Are you coming from this contemplative place more and more? Or are you reacting much more than you think is good, much more than you would like? There's a lot of people in the world reacting. So you can make a powerful decision this morning, today. You can make a powerful decision at any time to start your day over. You can make a decision that you intend to slow down and to start being the person that is directing your own energy. I'll say that again. You can start to be a person who is directing your own energy. You can start to use what Ernest Holmes described as your executive power to create the lives that you desire. Regarding the law, we can't escape it. Emerson said long ago, we pay for everything in spiritual coin. Every decision we make affects us. It impacts our inner world, it impacts our relationships, it impacts the world in general. So we pay for everything one way or another, and so we have to contend with this. It's not something we can get around. We can't get past it. So it's smart of us to work with it. Some of you recall the movie The Secret, which was teaching people about the law of attraction. I showed that movie to thousands of people over the years. There was huge interest in it and newfound interest in the law of attraction. I had weekly classes for a year discussing the law. I noticed just about everybody wanted something that ended with 2 letters, which were ER. For example, everybody wanted to be happier, healthier, wealthier, braver, calmer, kinder. I'm sure everybody can relate. We all want to soar and demonstrate more success in every area of our life. We collectively want better circumstances. We want things to change for the better. We want everything to be better. But most people I've learned, and I'm not talking to any of you who are the real students, most people, and I'm speaking more of the people who don't know our teaching, most people want things to change, but they don't want to change. Those of you who are really committed to transformation know that change is the name of the game. Because those of you who are really in this teaching know that you can wish and hope, and you can do all that, and it's well intended to, have good wishes and hopes, but that doesn't really engage the law of cause and effect. So let's talk a little bit more about the law itself. And let's first say that there is this divine energy in the universe, and it's in everything and everyone, and it operates, it responds to you. Louise Hay said, what we give out comes back to us, and it's done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. It's not done unto you as you think, as you wish, as you desire, as you talk about, or as you dream about. It's done unto you as you believe. So there it is. The points I want you to remember today are few. Life isn't just about attracting new and shiny things and having more of this or that. It's about knowing that life is responding to all your thoughts and thinking. The law responds to every single thought you think that you actually believe in. Our choices all have a spiritual cost or a benefit. The universe is never judging us for our thoughts, so you can think about things positively or negatively. The universe just responds. It's an impersonal process. Question I'll ask you all today is, how are you using your spiritual coin? What's it like being you? How is it working out being you? Because your thinking's creating your life. Okay. So the good news is all of us are where we are, and we're evolving. Can you have more? Of course you can. Being kind and making good choices adds to your spiritual wealth. Our thoughts and actions connect us to ourselves, to others, and impact the world itself that we live in. Every last one of us have been conditioned in the families that we've grown up with. And we brought some of that conditioning, since then on. And we've added all these layers of things, and we have a lot of old tapes. And some of the old tapes don't serve us very well. Some work for us still, and some seem to work against us. These are what we call our agreements. If you read the book, The Four Agreements, we have all these agreements. This is what's called the racket, the stories. These are our blind spots. They are tenacious. It doesn't matter whether they're good or bad. Often, these blind spots are difficult to change or erase. They're difficult to replace. The more you stay with us, however, the more you stay in the teaching, the more you will be able to let go. You can change your thought. You can change your thinking. You can even change your feelings. You can change also your emotions, or at least you can get better control over your emotions. Most people don't mind hearing that they are responsible for all the good in their life. for the most part, when people hear that, they think wonderful. I like hearing about the wonderful things I'm responsible for, would be the response you'd get from most people. But when it comes to being responsible for the people who've come into our lives and have hurt us, or psychologically, spiritually, or, if it comes to being responsible for the things that are painful, we don't like to think of ourselves as being responsible for any of that. So we struggle with the idea of being responsible for circumstances that seem to be beyond our immediate control. You might say, well, I'm not responsible for any illness that's in my life, or I'm not responsible for dis-ease, and I'm not responsible for what anyone's done to me either. So, as I've said before, I have a family member, and I've known a lot of people like that over the years who take that stance. They don't want to have any responsibility for any of that type of stuff. But they do like to claim responsibility for their achievements. Dr. Bill, and his wonderful lesson on the law of cause and effect, he says, I don't know how we can have a dual law. He said, the law is, or the law isn't. Now, I might not know what the cause is of any particular effect in my life. I might not know on a very deep level what the belief is that has brought these things forward into my life. But I know that if it's a law, it's done unto me. Since I believe that, I must look at what's going on in my life. Because if I'm looking at what's going on in my life as a statement of what my belief is, so even though there might be a split between what I understand about the belief and what is happening and outpicturing, we want to, in other words, I might be thinking, all is well and I'm good and everything's fine, but then I have this experience. So I must look at my life, and I must look at what's going on in my life as a statement of what my belief is about what's happening, what's outpicturing. So we want to explore this a little bit more, at least be willing to consider the teaching. You want to consider the question whether I'm responsible for my life or I'm not. Throughout my years as a counselor and minister, I've tried to help a lot of people overcome the whole idea of blame and the projecting of, who's wrong. And when people consider that when people come into this teaching and they consider that they are responsible for all of their life, and Louise was one of the people who taught that too. And we are 100% responsible. A lot of times people don't like hearing that because they automatically go to the idea of like, I'm to blame for this, or they'll go to shame. And of course, that's the exact opposite of what we're trying to teach and what we want people to do. If we have a negative experience or we have something disruptive that happens, there is a tendency to point fingers or to feel badly. And we do that to ourselves all the time. Most every Thursday night in class, I ask everybody that question again. What's it been like being you? And I'm really only asking it because I want people to start to understand that life is responding. I don't ever do it with the intention of people feeling bad about themselves. If you're blaming yourself, you're blaming other people. Blame is a function of judgment, and judgment is always emotionally loaded. It's always powerful, and more often than not, it's distorted and it's wrong. What we're after here is intellectual discernment, and that's different. It's a healthier approach. It would be something like this. I may not know what is in my consciousness that created this situation or this condition, but I'm still responsible for it, meaning that I must respond to it. I'm responsible for it, meaning I must respond to it. Now, who can change your reality is the ultimate question. And the answer is you. You can, you do. I can't change your reality. I can teach you the lessons. I can teach you the science of mind. But I can't change your reality. And you certainly can't change, certainly can't have me change your reality for you. Everything is entirely up to you. We do it ourselves. It's always a spiritual journey. It's always an inside job. I'm only God in my life as you are God in your life. Our concept of God may be very different than another person's concept, yet we are all one with this energy, this God. because this source is infinite. It's in everything, everyone, all at the same time. The infinite is infinite. Wherever it is, it's infinite. So this source is infinite and it's everywhere. It isn't here and there. It's perfection and creative intelligence everywhere. When you consciously want to start demonstrating and taking control of your life, things are going to begin to accelerate because you're going to step into your executive power. You're going to know that you have the power and you can unite with it and connect with it and use it. And I've told you that there's a quickening that will happen for people who embrace this teaching. Things will come to you quite easily. But the thing about change, there's no sugar coating it. When things start to change, there's going to be a lot of things that will come into your life that will require you to let go. Instead of things getting better, sometimes things to, get all mixed up. It could even seem a little bit worse. Challenges come up. We think that this stuff, then you might think that this stuff doesn't work at all, or it appears as it isn't working, or it doesn't work as well for you as other people. The truth of the matter is most people have the same experiences that you have, and we go through changes, and sometimes we go through losses. And as we do, we're making room for new things. It's kind of like the teaching in our prosperity classes. And I tell people, clean out your closets. If you haven't worn it or used it in a few years, create the space because you're not apt to use it. You're not apt to wear it. So as you begin to go through what appears to be a loss or change, as you commit yourself to evolutionary change, what you're losing are things that probably were appropriate for you to let go of to begin with. If you start to lose people who don't want you to be in their lives, or jobs that don't excite you or allow you to be creative, is that really a loss or is it a blessing? If you're going through life's lessons, for example, finances, health, healing challenges, if nothing else, you're having the opportunity to grow and evolve. And I know all this change can be scary and all because we're always creating our own reality. So I must be creating this too, even if it's unpleasant. I have to own it. We can have two choices when it comes to this law. We're going to accept it, and we're going to change and evolve and get with it, or we're going to fight it. And if we don't adapt, that means we are in resistance, and then we're going to eventually have to change anyway. So there is nothing still in the universe. There's nothing stagnant. Everything's in flux. Everything is changing. We know that change is totally inevitable. It's a law. It's an absolute law. And since it is, I want to align myself with it. I want to go with the flow. I have an opportunity to influence the direction in which it goes as I align myself with it. There is power for good in the universe, Ernest Holmes said, and we can use it. And we're always standing at a turning point. I can change my thinking and I can change my life. It's a given that when we begin to grow and expand, we're going to create new challenges. So what's your choice? I choose to see the changes as good. What's your choice? How do you want to see the changes? Big challenges tend to bring forth big answers, realizations, and the greatest gifts because they really get our attention. Our teaching is a gift. It really is. For those of you who have found us and you stay with us, our teaching is such a tremendous gift. We learn how to neutralize fears and doubts with our teaching. As we practice living with positive expectancy, as we learn to live the affirmative life, there's going to be lessons that are going to be filled with opportunities for us to grow. We're going to surrender things that aren't so important, and we're going to learn to slow down and appreciate the beauty that's here. Emerson said the dice of God are always loaded, so we want to live in communion and pay attention. If something's coming up that's problematic, it's always an opportunity to look within and to see that there's something in my consciousness that needs love and attention. Please don't ever think I'm a terrible person because I have a problem. You've heard me say, those of you who have been around a while, that we have lessons to learn. And if we don't learn them quickly, if we don't pay attention, they tend to get bigger, and eventually we'll learn them. You are in charge of your own mind. You are in charge of your own energy. You can change your energy instantly if you want to, if you really want to. Willingness is the key, and you need to make a conscious choice. We know that whatever I am in consciousness and evolution, wherever I am in it, I am still creating my own reality, and I'm the only one that can do that. I'm the only one that can enhance it, who can lift it up. A good question for us today as we wrap it up. What can I do with this lesson today on cause and effect? The thing you can walk away knowing is I create my own reality. I am the author of my own experience. And you can think to yourself and say, I'm in charge of you. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm in charge of you. I'm in charge of my own energy. I create my own reality. And if you're thinking about the law of cause and effect, think about what you want, knowing that you can have it. And then think about your intentions and what you're going to do as you treat, how you're going to move your feet in the direction of attaining it. Remember who creates your reality. You do. We have lessons. We've come here to express life and learn the lessons that we've come here to learn. And on some level, we know what we must do. Many of you know who you have come here to be. There's a part of you that absolutely knows what you're here to do. You know what you've come here to take on and to embrace, to become whole. Sometimes we say we don't know what we must do, but there is something inside of you that does know. In class, I remember being told many years ago, you know, Greg, and you know that you know. I didn't like that answer, but it's true. So I was also told if I don't do what I must do, then I have no right to complain about it. This teaching shows us there is a better way to live, there's a better way to think, and that there are tools that we can use. And this teaching gives you tools to use. And so it is, and so ends this morning's lesson. We'll look forward to the other side of the break, where Jimmy and I will be looking forward to hearing your comments about the law, about cause and effect, and you can share your good news with us. Thank you.